Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning or evening, wherever you are joining us from in the world. Welcome to our webinar on how to win at marketplace growth. We're just going to wait a minute or two for some other people to join us, seeing we've just hit 1 minute past 4. So does everyone want to let us know whereabouts you're dialing in from today? I'm based in London. We have Colin in Dublin. We've got Tom. Whereabouts are you from? Or you stay, Tom? Sorry.
I'm based in Leicester.
Based in Leicester. Eric is also in Dublin, and Alan is in Paris today at Paris Fashion Week. So sorry, not Fashion Week, Retail Week even. So hi, Darren. Oh, hello, Laura from Boston. I have to say I'm quite excited today. It's my the first event from my new house, or my new office, so to speak. So hello from Carrie from the US, and hello Ronaldo from Miami. Oh, and Ryan from Miami as well. Hello, Donna from Spain. Nice to have you here. And Neil from Cape Town, one of my favourite cities. What an amazing place. Beautiful memories from there. Okay, I think we'll get going. We're giving people a bit of a chance to get in now. So welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for our session on how to win at marketplace growth. Just to introduce myself, I'm Jules, and I head up brand at eDesk. And I am delighted that you can join us to discuss this very important topic, just as we're on the very cusp of heading into Q4. So for the next approximately 40 odd minutes or so, we'll be talking about the most relevant areas of where you can achieve success in marketplaces. So with me today, we've broken this down into 3 main sections. So first off, how you can build your presence on existing marketplaces that you're already connected with. Secondly, how to expand across new marketplaces and into new territories successfully, and actually how to deal with some of the challenges that going into new marketplaces brings. And then finally, Alan from Wish will be talking to you about the new partnership that eDesk has got with the very first mobile first marketplace with Wish. And then after that, we'll be wrapping up. There's some quick Q&A from you guys. So it's a rather packed agenda. To help me guide me through this very significant discussion, I'm delighted to be joined by an eminent panel of experts, all of who have lots of experience in driving success across marketplaces. And they are Colin Lewis, who is a CMO, author, coach, and columnist of Marketing Week. Colin's written extensively on e-commerce marketplaces, and most recently did papers including e-commerce best practice and marketplace best practice through e-consultancy. Then also there's Tom Pitt, who is Service Delivery Manager at Pertemba Global, where he oversees multi-channel processes and customer service teams across about 100 active marketplaces. Next, we have Alan Small, who leads European Business Development at Wish, where he's responsible for merchant success. He's got quite a unique take on this too, because not only is he working marketplace side, he also has launched his own online stores, and also is a leading marketplace for students in the EU. So we're delighted to have you all here. And finally, we've got my brilliant colleague Erica O'Shaughnessy, who heads product growth at eDesk. Erica leads the team that delivers product growth experiments rooted in qual and quant insights to identify opportunities and measure the impact of those. So hello and welcome to you all. So just got some general housekeeping to begin with. If you have any questions, can you please put them in the questions tab rather than the chat, just so that we can go through them and make sure we're kind of bringing them to the forefront at the end of the session. We'll be sending an email around at the end of the session as well, which will include some of the links and the topics from any of the interesting bits that we've had today. So watch out for that email. So I think we'll get started. Everyone ready? Great. So I'd like to begin on how to build your presence on marketplaces, which is a slightly lower hanging fruit rather than trying to expand too quickly. So we'll begin with Colin. Colin, what would you say the key things to driving awareness and discoverability on the digital shelf? And what are the most important aspects that sellers should focus on when building their marketing and visibility planning?
Well, it's a great question, and thank you very much for such a great introduction, Julie. I suppose the first thing I always like to start with is definitions. And when writing all these words on and doing all this research in marketplaces and running them, is this notion of the idea of the digital shelf. It needs to be sort of really rammed home to people, because there's kind of two shelves, and there's the retail shelf that we are familiar with in shops and supermarkets, and then there's the digital shelf, and both have their own set of best practices. But of course, the thing with the digital shelf, it's totally unlimited. It's still a place where people go to visit and find things and look for things and browse, but it's a way for us to think about things. So the first thing to go and say is, I'm working in the digital shelf, and what I'm trying to do is build out. What we're trying to do is build out our products and on the digital shelf. But it's really, what is the digital shelf about? It's about creating the right product and the right content for people to discover, and the right ratings and reviews to reinforce whether that product is the right product. It's about getting the right search and product to help that discovery. And of course, it's around availability and assortment. And subsets of that are things that we will talk about, such as like optimizing your product content and so on. But the biggest thing these days in digital shelf is the notion of advertising, which is growing exponentially across all marketplaces, and very different even from a conversation we might have had a couple of years ago, specifically as their capabilities are being built out. And it's probably a worthy topic on its own later to kind of really explain to people that how the ground is shifting as we speak on the notion of market, on the notion of advertising. But one point I'd want to kind of talk to brands and talk to people who are dealing in marketplaces is, and I'm going to quote somebody who I interviewed on this topic, Destiny Wishon. She's a very, very smart person dealing right across lots of marketplaces. And she says, the biggest mistake I see is brands throwing up listings that aren't retail ready because they want to get going quickly. And they don't realize how little views and impressions they're going to get in front with these terrible listings. So if there's one point I want to say from this part of our of the webinar is, get retail ready and don't get seduced by this. I've got to get up live. I got to get up fast. I'm talking to people who got their brands and trying to get up in marketplaces, and it's so frustrating talking to them. Where we're saying, this is not like I pull the lever and out comes the cash. You've got to go and get retail ready, and they don't really know how to combine this idea of retail readiness with search engine optimization suitable for marketplaces. They think it's one and the same. And so they syndicate content from their .com or D2C website directly over to marketplaces, which is, as silly as saying, I'm going to take exactly what I do in Selfridges and put it into Tesco. Yeah, they're two completely different contexts. So you still got your list, optimize your listing for the algorithm. And maybe you might get away with your brand being so powerful, but you've got to be retail ready with the right content, right product, right thing that suits that marketplaces. And I cannot leave it there. Understand the digital shelf and get retail ready.
That's really interesting. Thanks a lot for that, Colin. So Tom, can you tell me, in your experience, how has Pertemba really got retail ready in getting that visibility onto the right marketplaces?
Yeah, so we've expanded on, as you said, to over 100 active marketplaces, and we have a kind of like core product range that would sell on many of those marketplaces. And what we found was, certainly my early time in Pertemba is that you've got your Amazons and eBays, and you've got the luxury of volume coming from those marketplaces where you inevitably going to get sales in some form. But then there's other marketplaces where you have got to be more direct. You've got to be more selective around the products that you're placing on there, simply because they're just not going to sell. It's not the right marketplace for that product to be. So you could essentially end up wasting time listing those products, wasting money on advertising potentially. So like Colin says, you've got to be very selective and make sure that you're putting up the right content on those marketplaces. It's very, very key. One thing that we do is we look at localization. So we look at localization for the country that we're listing in, making sure that we're not listing terms that we might say in the UK that, are not necessarily, translating correctly into Japan or the US or wherever it might be. It's subtle little changes that can help the customer with the understanding of what they're buying, what they're, trying to get them to, really envision themselves having that product and trying to get it. In terms of, terminology in that we use as well. You can use free tools such as like Google Trends. Understanding what the customers are searching for in Google can give you a good insight as to what they're probably searching for on Amazon or the marketplace themselves. And you can use that in your, search engine optimization or your the keywords that you might be putting on the marketplace that helps, just increase that visibility of your products. The other thing as well is that we've used services that, more and more marketplaces are coming up with. So you've got your Amazon FBA, which a lot more marketplaces are now starting to, I don't want to say copy, but they're starting to like emulate or starting to kind of like, put across their own version. You've got Cdiscount that offer a similar version. You've got Deliver in the US that integrate with many different marketplaces. I believe Wish is one of them that Alan was talking about earlier, and that can help you integrate with those. So looking into those sort of services as well can really, they've got their own input and their own advice that they can give, which can be extremely useful.
Fantastic. No, I imagine that probably helps on the number of returns that are coming back as well, if people are understanding what they're buying in terms of the translation. So absolutely. But just on that topic, you lead customer service at Pertemba, and obviously eDesk is customer service first technology. What part do you think that customer service specifically has to play in a marketplace, in a merchant growth?
I think customer services can often be quite overlooked as a growth tool, very much so. And, I think sometimes other customer services will bang their head against the walls at the amount of times they've tried to, promote the promised land of good customer service and customer-centric customer service that you see with Amazon. There's a reason customers keep going back to Amazon. It's because of their customer-centric focus. They know that they're going to get good service, consistent service, and they feel comfortable with that. It makes them feel at ease. It makes them trust Amazon, essentially, which is a key thing. For me and my team, one of the key things in terms of growth that we have an impact on is the likes of feedback management, solution-based customer service, which can stop claims. Amazon and eBay, obviously A to Z claims and stuff like that can have a real impact on your ability to sell on the marketplace, full stop. Not just making sales and increasing sales, but just being able to sell full stop. So having that customer service, those clear processes in place for those marketplaces, each individual country tailored to those countries as well, can be very key to even being able to be on there at all. In terms of that as well, we're quite useful with the likes of eDesk and their auto translate and some native speakers that we have in our team. It's a key to have that understanding of the market that you're selling into, to the customer base and their expectations. It can be something as simple as using the wrong greeting in an email can offend the older generation of a certain country, and that's not something that you want to do or you mean to do, but it's having that understanding of what impact that can have. As they say, bad word of mouth can spread, very, very quickly. Whether you're the brand selling on your own website or selling on a marketplace, it can spread very, very quickly. So that's something that you definitely don't want to happen. And, we make use of tools that the marketplace offer, discount codes, things like that, because inevitably there's going to be things that go wrong. They might be out of your control. They might be your fault, but it's about how you respond to those and how you react to those and deal with those with the customer. So being able to make use of those tools and trying to turn that negative into a positive can go a long way. Even if you're discouraging 2 or 3 people to leave a negative feedback, that's 3 feedback that's not going to come in, that's going to affect your sales, affect your product visibility, because it will be taken into account in the algorithms and things like that in terms of product visibility. There's no way that it's not. I think we're all looking for that secret algorithm that these marketplaces hold so close to their chest. But we've got to kind of impact it any way possible, and customer services definitely has a big part in that. It should not be underestimated.
Absolutely. I think particularly with feedback as well, we're seeing more people rely on peer-to-peer feedback rather than just kind of like through marketplace algorithms as well. So that's a really key point. But just on that, Erica, obviously you lead growth at eDesk and do lots of quant research into all this kind of stuff. What's your perspective on how customer service can build loyalty and indeed grow sales?
Yeah, thank you, Julie, and thanks, Tom, for going into detail around your experience. It's really interesting to hear from your perspective, and I have to say, I really couldn't agree more. I think customer service is definitely overlooked in terms of growth, and if there was really one point everyone could take from me, certainly today, it would be to look at your customer support team as a driver for growth. As there's a huge potential to impact business performance. I think there's kind of three key ways that I would look at it. The first one is definitely around retention and loyalty. So I think, Colin, you touched on, I suppose, being retail ready. I think, Tom, you touched on, localization. Like, it's really, really worth it investing in building a loyal customer base, starting small if that's what it means. And in any industry, it's not just e-commerce, I suppose, retention and loyalty, it's definitely by far the most sustainable way to grow your business. There's kind of a popular statistic that's bandied about, I suppose, that just a 5% increase in retention can result in a 25% increase in profit. I think this is especially true like this year, how customer support can play a role there. We have markets that are just increasingly homogenous with products, and the best way to differentiate is through the support and the service that your team are providing. So your customer support team can be right at the center of generating these loyal and repeat buyers. I think that's one really great way customer support can drive growth. And the second is following on from that, I suppose. Once you have this loyal and really satisfied customer base, what can you do with them? Like, the best thing customer support can do is turn those into advocates. eDesk have done some research recently with Citizen. Research, it was across 2,000 very different online shoppers in the UK and US, and they found that they're actually very likely to leave a positive review once they've just received a simple reminder. So I think there's so much kind of potential there for a customer support team to be the ones to just send that simple trigger and remind customers that they can leave a positive review and really advocate for that brand. And then the last one, I guess, I think is some people might overlook, is that your customer support team, they can kind of be like a sales team in disguise. Once you have those happy customers looking at reviews and coming in, I think your customer support team can be the ones to answer those quick questions and convert those opportunities into sales. So yeah, three ways from my side. I think customer support can definitely drive growth in terms of, you've got retention, you've got advocacy, and then you've got kind of those sales opportunities that they convert.
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting you say about people being motivated to leave positive reviews rather than negative. I think from a personal point of view, I'm far more fonder of leaving good reviews rather than bad. So yeah, it's something which I fully agree with there. But just looking at reviews from a marketplace perspective, Alan, what position or what part do reviews have to play in visibility from Wish and on people's merchants, on being merchants and their products?
Great, yeah, no, thanks, Julie. Reviews play a pivotal part in a merchant success on Wish. On Wish, a merchant has a store review and a product review, which are both used by the customers to gather feedback on a product and the seller to have confidence when purchasing that product. So, for example, on Wish, we've had over 85 million product ratings. We've had over 1.9 million video reviews, over 10.5 million image reviews, and over 72 million store ratings. I would love to be able to, the reviews do play a pivotal part in our Wish merchant scoring, which will then impact the discoverability of those merchants' products via our algorithm. I would love to be able to share with Tom and other people what our algorithm is and how it works. But yeah, I could just let you know it is a very important part. And we've had this discussion before. Even if I was able to share the sort of the algorithm and how it's impacted, I think it's actually bad for the merchants now, because we don't want them to get lazy. If we tell them that, okay, if you get above a 4.2 rating, that's going to trigger off these amount of impressions or you on the algorithm. We don't want them to stop at 4.2. You want them to get the top rating and always be continuously to drive that. And that's why we do a lot of stuff on our side. So Julie, I agree with you as well, as incentivizing merchants, customers to leave those reviews, because Wish is a mobile first platform. You always have your mobile by your side. I'd be shocked if anyone doesn't have their mobile next to them right now. So we're always able to send those triggers at the exact right point to get reviews and ask them about their products at the right sort of timing. And then we incentivize the customers to do that. So they leave certain reviews, we can give them rewards, discounts to spend on Wish going forward as well. So yeah, it's a very, very important part on Wish. It does impact the algorithm.
Good stuff. So let's move on to the next topic, into expansion. So beginning with the new marketplaces. So Colin, from your perspective, what are the most important things that merchants should consider when thinking about adding different channels to their sales stack? And in particular, how can they have a really solid strategy rather than just kind of running after the shiny new thing or the coolest new thing on the market?
Well, I think the starting point is always getting rid of your own subjectivity. Where most people here they sound very UK and US centric, and so as a result, we're slightly blinded by what's out there. We see Amazon, we hear about eBay, and what have you. But as we know from this call alone, there's lots of other marketplaces out there. I'm going to the Middle East in a few weeks' time. You don't hear really about Amazon in the Middle East. What you hear about is Talabat, and you hear about Noon. They're the big behemoths in that market. When you go to Latin America, it's Mercado Libre. If you go to Poland, it's Allegro, and they're right across a lot of Eastern Europe. But the way to think about it is they're what I call horizontal marketplaces who sell lots of products, wide range of assortment. So therefore, your choice in horizontal marketplaces is around the geographical discussion and who's big in that geography. So Lazada, whatever the case is in Singapore. Then we get into narrow marketplaces or vertical marketplaces. So in travel, the obvious one is Airbnb as a marketplace, as an example. But obviously these very high impact, narrow niche marketplaces, the ones that I find completely crazy but interesting are the ones that sell sneakers in the US. Like, who knew that marketplaces selling sneakers was a thing, given that I have a set of what I'll call runners here, but I wouldn't even think about going into a marketplace to buy it. So there you go. So the expansion of niche marketplaces, the Wishes of this world and Etsy's of this world, the Stocks of this world, the Greats of this world. If there's a product for everything, a marketplace for every form of product, and it's getting more niche and niche. And I actually want to leave this point on one thing as a sort of a tip for everybody here. There's a big venture capitalist in Silicon Valley called Andreessen Horowitz. Their website is a16z.com. And they have the top 100 marketplaces 2020 and the top 100 marketplaces 2021. And what they're doing is looking at the world through this lens of where will we put our money? And I got to know a few venture capitalists over the last couple of years, and they are all over marketplaces. And they see marketplaces as what they call the front end of the internet, the access point to the internet. They're more excited by marketplaces than they are by D2C. Because of the scalability, marketplaces can go internationally very quickly or cross-border. And so what I would encourage everybody here to say, rather than talk about shiny new things, to go and say, where is the world going? It's going into marketplaces. It's definitely, by definition, going into niches. How can I tap into these niches? I'll give you an example, finally, of my favorite niche, which is an odd niche, but interesting. In the clothing sector, there's a marketplace called Faire, F-A-I-R-E, and they do B2B wholesale clothing, targeting SME, if you will, mom and pop clothing stores in the US. So instead of having to go to these big trade shows, you can just go into the B2B marketplace and buy the clothing and the brands with them. That's coming to Europe. That's the sort of way I'd like you to think. What are my customers? Where are they buying? Marketplaces are going niche. That's how I validate my choices if I don't go horizontal like Allegro in Eastern Europe.
That's really interesting. I'll definitely give Faire a check out, because that sounds like something right up my street. So Alan, how would you say that merchants, you mentioned that Wish is mobile first, and particularly, obviously we've been talking about different territories, but there's also different geographies, but then there's also different age groups and kind of demographics as well. In terms of building a mobile commerce first strategy, what kind of advice would you give merchants to be able to do that? And what are the benefits they'd actually get from building something like that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm very passionate about mobile commerce. As the global share of mobile commerce in e-commerce has actually increased to just under 70% in recent years, and there's many benefits to what the top tips I could probably give for a mobile commerce strategy. But like my top 6 I always recommend to the new merchants we're speaking to is the first one is to be mobile friendly. You need to invest in being mobile responsive, or better yet, build your own app. And ensure any features or designs or marketing that you have planned going forward is mobile focused going forward, because it's going to be seamless. If you're doing digital marketing, you're targeting people on their mobile, you want it then to be a seamless transition straight into that mobile app, or the mobile responsive site that you have. The next one is learn about your users. Being mobile brings more real-time information and demographics about your user. So treasure that data and exploit it if you can. Next one is you personalize the approach. So you can use this new unearthed data to build sort of unique personas about your users to understand what they want to see and what they want to hear, and build this into your marketing strategy. This is something Wish does a lot. Every user on Wish has a unique persona, so not one person would have the same feed when they open up the app at any given time. The next one is be omnipresent. So embrace what we call location-based advertising to tailor your marketing messages based on where your customers are geographically based. So again, linking to kind of like what Colin was alluding to just then as well. Be proactive, so utilize the new user data, so locations, buying habits, etc., to engage with your users via push notifications and user interface to drive that retention. And then utilize the mobile commerce channels. So you can leverage the expertise of other mobile commerce marketplaces to enhance like your mobile commerce strategy. And that's where Wish falls into that sort of pillar. And if you do that, the benefits you get is massive. So you gain more insights into your customers. You get that personal touch. On average, 62% of users will return to an app the following month if they're engaged with a push notification. You get an enhanced customer experience. So people often, as I mentioned earlier, keep their mobile devices close to them. So providing the right kind of service, these retailers can capture the attention of consumers more easily. Another one, which people probably like skip over, but is the variety of payment options. With new mobile payment solutions emerging, it's now possible to offer customers a truly diverse range of payment options. This doesn't mean we've moved away from cash or card, but mobile commerce has given us mobile wallets that make one-click checkouts possible in more than one store. It gives you that extra. Another benefit is it gives you an extra marketing channel. So in addition to these notifications, mobile commerce provides an opportunity to promote businesses by offering promotions, mobile-only discounts, kind of what Tom was mentioning earlier, or special prices for registered customers, free shipping, and much more to improve user registration and earn new customers. And then the final one, which is a big benefit of why merchants come to Wish, is reaching new demographics of users. Mobile commerce is primarily millennials and Gen Z, who, again, they're going to grow and continue and become the high net worth individuals going forward and have a much higher disposable income going forward. So that's kind of the high level tips and the benefits you can get from like a mobile commerce strategy.
That's a great wrap up for that. Thank you very much for that, Alan. I have to say, particularly with location as well, coming from a location marketing background or advertising background, I completely concur with that. And actually, what I did quite enjoy is the kind of insights you can get from where people are visiting and the kind of historic data you can get from that to be able to build profiles and add to them particular personas. So great tips there. Just sticking with location and new territories, Tom, in your experience, how's Pertemba approach expansion into new territories, and how do you deal with things such as cultural differences, and what kind of things have you put in place to really kind of help make sure that you're kind of making sure you're delighting the customers all the way?
So I think recent examples for us is that we've expanded into places like Russia, Nordics. We've got other marketplaces as well where we sell into the Middle East, into Indonesia, places like that. And that's been, quite eye-opening. And I would say probably like the key word for me is flexibility. We have a range of carriers. We have a range of return options that allow us to offer flexible options to the customers. It allows us to be flexible to different marketplace requirements and needs, which is really, really key to understand. What we've seen previously is that a lot of marketplaces might have initially copied the Amazon model because they saw Amazon getting big, but now marketplaces are starting to stand on their own 2 feet a lot more. And even, the smaller marketplaces are coming up with their own KPIs, their own service metrics, their own expectations of merchants and sellers, which means that it provides its own challenge in being able to meet those key metrics, to be able to, as Alan said, hit the algorithm so that you get that key visibility. You have the ability to stay selling on the marketplace. So being able to offer that flexibility of service to the customers and for the marketplaces is really key. The other thing as well that I would say that it does is it offers security as well. As much as carriers might love you to believe that they're strong into every country and they can deliver, really quickly, they can't. They're strong in some countries, weaker in others. And having those carriers that can fit together like a jigsaw, that they're strong into the Middle East or they're strong into the Americas, is good to have. It also gives you that security during peak that, you know, if one carrier is really struggling, you are not going to be affected, or if you can quickly move that freight to another carrier, to another service provider, so that it doesn't affect your customers and it doesn't affect your standing on the marketplaces. So for me, it's flexibility. The other keyword that you would obviously expect is just research your market. Like you said, the cultural differences can be quite subtle and they can also be quite severe. You know, we sell into Japan, and, you know, Japan's expectations compared to a European customer's expectations can be quite different. You know, Japan customers won't just settle for a solution. They want an explanation as to why it went wrong, as to what caused this. How could it possibly go wrong? Whereas in Europe, they might just want this, they just want the issue sorted. So it's key to understand your market. It's key to understand your customer of what they're going to expect, because it will differ and it can affect your feedback. It can affect your metrics and stuff. So it's key to understand that.
That's quite interesting, actually, is how you can look at between different countries, how to make sure that, you know, your feedback isn't being affected from one place to the next. Do you have any advice on that one, or
in terms of feedback?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think like that, you know, understanding the services that they expect. So in terms of like the Nordics, you know, over 30% of shoppers there want pick up and drop off, you know, because it's not just about convenience for them, it's about security. You've got Germany, you've got a certain percentage of shoppers have got pack station. So it's being able to facilitate those services, and being able to do that will give you the best opportunity to get that positive feedback, and to, you know, as well as your kind of responses and stuff to the customer in terms of getting those solutions quickly, then that's obviously going to have a positive effect.
That's great stuff. Thank you very much for that. So, Alan, like Tom, Wish has a presence in over about 100 marketplaces as well. How do you support sellers in terms of the expansion, and particularly when it comes to localization too?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if I had to put my seller hat on, I'd say this is one of the strongest benefits of Wish. So on Wish, we want to make it as easy as possible to sell cross-border. Over 60% of all of our 1.8 million daily transactions are cross-border transactions. So we've made it very streamlined. So with Wish, you create one account, and then you just simply turn on each of those individual countries you want to sell to. You don't have to create a new account for Germany, France, Italy, Spain. You then manage everything in your single language and your single currency. So we'll then translate it to those languages for you. We'll do machine translation. But if you have your own translation, because you want to make sure that you keep your sort of branding and your tone of voice, we can then apply that translation for you as well. And we'll also manage the currency exchange. So if you're a UK seller selling to Europe, we'll convert it to euros. And then once the transaction's been made, we'll then convert it back to GBP for you. And so you can manage everything in just one single currency. So you don't have to worry about all the different currencies. And we have a very strong tax engine as well. So again, we'll calculate the tax for you on each individual those countries. And for example, if you're a UK seller selling into Europe, we'll also remit to those local governments for you on your behalf. So again, you don't have to worry about having to pay the taxes to each of those countries. We collect it and remit it on your behalf. So we've got everything's been geared up and set up to help support you on that. And in terms of localization, and then a real strong point of Wish is our account management and support we give you. So we will help identify markets that you should open up and go into. So we will, you'll come to us and tell us, we'll understand a bit more about your business, your categories you sell in, and then we'll identify new markets that there's a strong demand for the product. And then we'll help you expand into those countries. Many stories about merchants we've got joining Wish who have all of a sudden realized they've got new geographies they never thought they'd have a demand for their products, or products that wouldn't have sold, don't really sell in their domestic country, are now selling, or they've sold out now because they've just opened up into Japan or into the Nordics examples.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, everybody, for that. I'm going to hand the floor now over to Alan for a little bit, just to talk a little bit more about Wish and our eDesk partnership. And then what we'll do, if everybody could think of some questions on the way, we'll have a little Q&A session after this. So, Alan, I'm just going to hand over my screen to you. And if you want to let me know the slides, that'd be great.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. So first of all, I just want to say, so Wish, a bit of background about Wish. So we're a 10-year-old US company. We're not Chinese. I think a lot of people assume we're a Chinese company. We're a US founded, US based, headquartered in San Francisco with offices across the US, Canada, Europe, and APAC. We're the leading mobile commerce platform in the US and Europe, with a mission to bring affordable and entertaining mobile shopping experience to billions of consumers around the world. As you can see on the slide there, we're one of the most and best reviewed shopping apps out there. We have more downloads than any other app, and we're rated more highly by consumers than the likes of eBay, AliExpress, and Amazon across both iOS and Android. And we've been the most downloaded shopping app for 3 out of the last 4 years. If you could just move to the next slide, please, Julie. When you join Wish, you'll enter a community of hundreds of thousands of merchants worldwide across more than 100 countries, with more than 150 million items available for sale. We have over 500,000 sellers globally, and more than 1.8 million transactions go through each day. The majority of these sellers, I'll be honest, were traditionally Chinese sellers, because that's what Wish first started off as. But our main focus now in the UK and Europe is to onboard these local sellers. And we have a special program in place, which not only levels the playing field for you, but also enables you to reach our 90 million monthly active users with very little local competition. Next slide, please. So yeah, just in terms of our user base, kind of mentioned this. So our top 2 markets are the US and Europe, but we have a strong presence also in LATAM and APAC. Next slide, please. Oh, okay. So I thought there would be another slide for some reason. But yeah, and in terms of Western Europe, our single biggest markets are the UK, Germany, France, and Italy. But we do have a strong presence in all of Europe. So we're very strong in the likes of Nordic, Spain, Switzerland, etc. And then in terms of a bit about our demographics, so most of our customers are using Wish on Android, purchasing on a mobile app. Data shows that we're slightly more females than males, and our demographic is generally younger, as I mentioned earlier. Over 60% are under the age of 30, and they tend to spend on average 9 minutes per session browsing on the app. But I just wanted to highlight here that 90% of all of our interactions on Wish go through via our mobile app. So again, we do have a website, but again, we're mobile first and mobile focused. In terms of top selling products, one key question probably asking is, so what sells on Wish? So here you'll find a summary of our top selling categories in 2020. As you can see, fashion and fashion apparel is our biggest market, followed by home and garden, consumer electronics, baby and child, and wellness. But there are 4 categories I really want to highlight that we're seeing very strong growth on in Europe, which are consumer electronics, home and garden, CPG or fast moving consumer goods, and toys and hobbies. And yeah, those are the ones which we're seeing that there's a huge demand for local sourced products, but not as much local supply. So it's where we're seeing very strong success for our merchants. Next slide, please. And then in terms of brands as well. So again, another myth I would love to bust is the fact that you can't sell branded products on Wish. This is not true at all. As you can see, we work with some of the biggest brands globally, the likes of Skullcandy, Unilever, Samsung, L'Oreal, Puma. We actually have a dedicated brand section within Wish where you can browse brands or you can browse categories within brands. And we have a very strict brand authorization process as well to become an authorized seller of a brand, where you get this green tick to show that you're an authorized seller or distributor of that brand. And then in terms of what we have exclusive offers. So as part of our unique partnership with eDesk, you wouldn't get this if you weren't part of eDesk or part of this webinar. So if anyone who signs up to Wish and wants to sell on Wish, it's completely for free. The only time you ever pay on Wish is when you make a transaction. And what we can do is we'll reduce that commission to you for just 5% for the first 3 months. It usually goes to 15% after that, but we can be flexible with you as well. You'll have your own dedicated account manager in your local country that you're in, who will help you onboard, optimize your listings in a sense to take advantage of our algorithm and drive impressions to your products as well. So we'll do free boosting of your products on a weekly basis. This is worth thousands of euros, and we'll keep boosting your products because the main aim is we want to get you picked up by our algorithm, because once you're picked up by our algorithm, it's a snowball effect and keeps building up. And we'll also include you in our other social media. So we've got banners, social media posts. We're one of the biggest advertisers on the likes of Facebook and Google. We work with a lot of influencers. So again, we'll get your products into the hands and into those marketing channels for free as well. And then just the wider support. My background as a seller, having this support, if you have issues with customer service, if you have issues with fulfilling orders or track anything, we're there to help you through that entire process. That's what your account manager will do for you as well.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much for that, Tom. Sorry for Alan. Even just onto the Q&A now. I have a question from Maeve. This is one for Erica. I have a question about how can I access the pre-sales feature? So pre-sales obviously is quite crucial to growth. So how can they access the feature in eDesk?
Yeah, so eDesk makes this really easy. It's automatically pulled out from all your other tickets in your mailbox. There's a section called pre-sales, so your support team can really jump on any sort of opportunity straight away and help that customer convert.
Okay, great. And we're almost at time actually, so I'm going to throw a question out there. Of any tip, or what's the biggest tip you've got for growth? I'm going to go through the panelists now. In terms of, if you could say to the merchants who are online at the moment, what would you say the top tip is? To start with you, Colin.
Great. I touched on it earlier on. I would just look very closely at what's happening in the advertising space and marketplaces. The money's piling into it, the capabilities are piling in there. The whole notion of what's called retail media is growing exponentially. If you look at the top leadership in one of the biggest marketplaces in it's called Instacart in the US, a delivery marketplace, all of their top staff are advertising background. So the advertising models on these marketplaces are going to become more sophisticated, more useful, and they're going to get your growth flywheel kicked off much faster than they used to a couple of years ago.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. How about yourself, Tom?
I would say localization. I would say, I think Colin mentioned it as well in his initial thing of that, your content that you have on your website may not necessarily translate to a marketplace, particularly in another territory or a new territory. So understand that territory, localize your content, personalize it as much as you can as well for that customer and help them understand it better. That would be one of my key things.
Thank you very much. How about you, Alan?
I would say it's mobile commerce strategy. It would be to invest in that, to make sure you're optimizing your listings for these marketplaces for the mobile devices, and making sure that those pictures are clear, they're precise. They're also really utilize video as well. Video is massively unutilized by merchants selling on marketplaces, but it's a huge impact for customers. So that's what I'd say is the top tip.
So move into more formats as well. Interesting. Yeah. And finally, Erica, how about yourself?
I would just reiterate that you can really believe in your customer support team and not overlook them. There's so much they can do there in terms of boosting your brand reputation through feedback and just really generating that kind of loyal, satisfied customer base that just advocates for you again and again.
That's fantastic. Okay, well, I think we're about at time now. So I just want to say thank you very much to everybody who took part today. So Colin, Tom, Alan, Erica, I really enjoyed hearing your insights and found them really valuable. So thank you very much for your participation. Also to our audience as well, thank you very much for spending the time with us today. We've really enjoyed your company. I've got a couple of quick wrap-up things from here. You'll be receiving an email soon after this, which has in there details of some of the topics that we've covered today. So obviously stuff that Alan's mentioned in terms of Wish, and also one of my favourite articles that Colin's written this year in Marketing Week, which looks at the impact of technology and marketing in the 2020s. So I would highly advise everyone give that a read. It's really interesting. And if anybody else wants to have a bit of an extension of this topic, our CRO, Richard McGuinness, is actually taking part in an event with OFX and Channel Advisor tomorrow. We'll be expanding on things such as shipping and tax and that kind of thing. So if you want to join, the sign-up information will be in the email that's about to go out. Other than that, I wish everybody an amazing rest of your day, and thank you very much for joining. We'll see you soon.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, bye.